So before I start this video, a very quick reminder, there are only 3 days left to become a member of the community, join the Investory. Instead of paying $30 a month, you can pay $15 a month for the basic tier, join and participate at least in one meeting a week. Of course, you're going to get plenty of benefits. Most of everything is conducted via the Discord. I'm very, very proud. Here's the sort of the testimonials from the One-on-One Academy, but really we do a lot more. If it's various discussions, conversations about any topics that is financially related, of course, there is a focus on technical analysis and the discussions that we have, relevant to the market and various assets. Of course, there are member meetings, exclusive member content, and various other perks that I'm not talking about right now, such as, for example, right now we're starting a new members watch list that will include various stocks that we find to be outliers to that downwards movement we're expecting to see. And so, yeah, just kind of a very nice little perk, including, of course, Charting 101, my portfolio that, my whatever I'm buying, selling is also exposed to the members and all that beautiful stuff. But let's focus on what I wanted to say about today. Yesterday, if you watched my short right before the NVIDIA earnings came out, I was saying that the market can pop up to 200, but overall it appears to be that we have a lot more bearish and negative momentum in the barrel. And I do still stand by it. Overall, the price action may still pop back up to roughly around 200, 221.07, that is. And I'll show you exactly why I say that. So if we're going to look, for example, sort of jump back to yesterday's chart, for example, on the 4 hours, it appears to be a lot more bearish, although we have not yet penetrated that 50 range on the stochastic RSI, giving way to it become full-on bearish. Although let's objectively, accept it for what it is right now. It is more bearish than it is bullish, right? So what we do see here, if we progress to the daily, we still do see that we have some bullish momentum in the barrel, and it is just about to penetrate that 50 range that we were just talking about on the 4 hour, which is more dominant. Here you're going to notice that there's almost this continuous situation of a picture within a picture within a picture. So if we're looking at the weekly, we're basically more bearish and more intended to drop lower. And in fact, we haven't really reached the top of sort of the ceiling here. And we are objectively still in overbought territory, and subsequently can lead to a little bit more push. So that may give us, let's say, 200. Maybe the retest of that channel, the vicinity of it, which gives us roughly around 210-ish. But how do we get to that 221? So if we look at the monthly chart, we still are bullish, believe it or not. That easily, and above 50, generally speaking, that easily may interpret to 221.07. But you need to remember, again, it all falls into sort of a picture within a picture within a picture. And so the larger picture, the quarterly, we already see that the price action is already becoming more bearish slowly, which at this scale of things will more indicate a flattening of the curve rather than an actual bearish price action until we penetrate that 50, when it truly becomes trending to the downside. And until then, it's just kind of if-ish momentum, not bullish, not bearish, just in between and more so sideways. Very similarly so on the half-year chart, we're seeing that confluence, the convergence of the forces. The K and the D are about to converge and cross over each other. Once they do, we see the change in direction, the change in force. If right now we're objectively bullish, we will become bearish when that crossover happens. We do know we still have plenty of time until then, right? We still have 4 months, give or take. But it is closer than you think. Also, I highly recommend subscribe, like, and all that beautiful stuff. Ring the bell. Make sure you transfer the notification to everything. Why? Because I'm about to make a video within the upcoming days to point out what really happens when the Fed ends up cutting rates and how the markets end up reacting. And very often so people do show you, oh no, it's just 50-50 kind of thing. No, it is pretty much every single time that the Fed cut rates, the market drops, sometimes more significantly than others, of course. And when some people show you a line chart that smoothens out these entire processes, guess what? You're simply unable to see them, especially the larger the time frame. These get swallowed in by the sort of the way they get engulfed. Basically, they get engulfed by the way the average of that sort of structure looks like. And these breakdowns, that's also one of the reasons why it's so important to look at the price action through candlesticks and go more granular and identify these locations, zoom in on them, be aware of these locations in the cycle and sort of behaviors on the cycle. And you'll learn that every single time the Fed cuts rate, basically, well, roughly every single time, more so than other times, it's more significant, but every time it does result with the market breaking downwards. Now, here is the coup de grace, so to speak. When you go to the 12 months, you realize that, well, NVIDIA has been on this downtrend all along, and I know it's hard to identify because remember, our downtrend started from the top. So in essence, we were bullish. So you're like, but Greg, that's bearish. No, it is transitioning. There was data prior to it, just that we didn't have the accumulated average or the data points to create that accumulated average over time. And now that we do, we identify that we basically ran up all the way to the TP top and began that breakdown to the other side, which is again harder to identify unless you know what you're looking at and how to see it, right? Which, by the way, quick reminder, the One-on-One Academy, that's exactly what I teach. I focus purely on technical analysis, the tools, the whys, and the way to identify these things, the history of things that you need to know to be able to find and identify them in the first place. The methods, all of it, all of the above, the patterns, psychology, all of it is kind of intertwined. Now, for today's price action, it's going to be rather interesting because for most people that are not even aware of this overnight price action, basically we're going to open up with a double gap. Why double gap? On the one hand, most people are not aware, and for as far as they care, the market closed here, and if it opens up here, the gap is this. Not true. The problem is that this is that overnight gap that ended up in between the post hours and the pre hours, right? And this is still known by the bots, the various algorithmic systems, and it will get close, so they will push to close this. The real question is, what will the market push to do first, to close this? So then we may end up with the market opening up to the downside first to close this to close this gap. Pardon me for my inability to draw straight lines. But yeah, you get the idea. So first we may end up moving downwards to close this gap that most people are not going to be even simply aware of, and thus not going to be looking for it to happen, and only then move to the upside to close whatever the market perceives or the retail perceives as the true gap that we had, and only then to be free to move to the downside. And why am I saying to the downside? Because what we saw, most of price action on the overall is structured to the downside. There is inherent momentum that is being translated from the indices that is very painful and very bearish. Does that not necessarily, how does that cancel everything I just said about the 200? No, it doesn't. That's the problem. I am talking about very short-term movements, and it still means that we may see within the following weeks sessions, whichever it may mean, until the Fed will start actually cutting rates, which could be the main sort of reason to why the market will start dropping. And so we still may end up seeing a retest of that 200, 221, and as far-fetched as it seems, and although, just like I said yesterday, positive results, barely so, but still positive, right? Again, barely so, let's be honest, barely so, but still positive. Objectively speaking, those are still positive results. At the end of the day, what we need to understand is that oftentimes the earnings reports do not necessarily matter when it comes to the cyclicality of the market on the grand scheme of things, which means that if we are moving to a downtrend that needs to be fulfilled, even if before we do that there is another sort of cap, another little hit or head or neckline that we need to complete before, and then head subsequent, of course, to complete before we go downwards. Sure, it is some noise. Sure, you can capitalize on this. Is it certain? Hell no, nothing is. Well, the only things that are truly certain is the larger cyclical sort of things, the things that matter on the grand the grand picture, right? The bigger picture of things, the things that have been consistent throughout the last 100 plus years. That's what matters at the end of the day. And again, if you ask me, this is going to start happening rather soon. No one says tomorrow. Don't expect to wake up tomorrow, although, not necessarily a scenario that could not play out, right? But probably not, doubtably. It still, like I said, may take some time until we complete these processes and are fully able to see that in the price action. But then again, if the market starts breaking prematurely and breaking everything very, very shortly, so guess what? Nvidia, nothing else will be an outlier. Those who are aware, the S&P, we've been moving within this sort of narrow channel. This is a very, very significant narrow channel. We've been waiting and expecting for these levels to play out. This is basically, you may consider this level as 6,500, sorry. That's 6,491. You may consider it as a 65, simply because with a little bit of slippage, we can make it to that very easily. And yeah, we still may see that 6,500 an entanglement and the retest of this particular level, the TP top, so to speak, or the levels around it before we start breaking downwards. But yes, there are gaps to be filled and fulfilled basically very, very shortly. We were seeing the price action pointing out and sort of signaling to what will lead eventually to the closure of these gaps. If it's the price action hitting the ceiling, retests over retests, and movement within the narrow channel, within the narrow band. If you want to know more, like I said, join my community in which I teach and expand on every one of these topics and go in depth and have community member meetings. Here it is, patreon.com/BD50. That is the promo code, although I don't think you need it right now. If you go, I'm pretty sure it's automatic right now. If you go to the Patreon and all of that beautiful stuff, it sort of does that automatically like you see on my screen. It is only for new subscribers, although I am working on something that will be applicable for the older members, the OGs already in the community. Don't worry. In fact, I have something that I think I figured out something really cool for you. It'll take a little while. I want sort of the dust to settle, the discount to be off, which is off within 3 days. Also, the one-on-one academy is now discounted instead of being $3,000, instead of being $3,000. It's soon it will change. Basically, soon within 3 days from now, it will be again $3,500. So whoever wants to get that $500 discount, now is the time. Join in, reach out to me. The way to reach out to me is pretty simple. You go to our Discord. If you are just now joined in, you haven't yet sort of connected your account, there is a description in here on how you do that. But if you want to find out about the Academy, which will grant you lifetime membership in the Discord anyways, amongst other cool things, and you just simply go here to need help, press this Academy application. Of course, then there will be a ticket, an application opened up, and you do follow up on it because I will talk to you through that application. There will be a ticket here. Pay attention to it, click it, and you'll see the application, or just straight up join in the Discord, talk to me. And here I am, Greg Investory, with that little cool moving eye, you can see, right? Very unique. Don't fall for scammers. We have plenty of scammers trying to pretend to be me, so don't believe that bullshit. And I'll hope to see you in the community. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye for now.